couple of questions. Prime Minister, 2 weeks ago you said the intelligence was particularly gloomy when asked about the inevitability of a Russian invasion into Ukraine. Since then, the combination of the threat of sanctions, deploying troops to Eastern allies, diplomacy has failed to de-escalate this situation. Are you coming to the conclusion that President Putin actually wants this war? And to the Secretary-General, you just said that this was a dangerous moment for European security. Different allies from France to the UK to the US are taking slightly different approaches to dealing with Russia. Are you concerned about these different approaches sending mixed messages to Russia? And are you worried that differences between partners could hinder any NATO deployment? Thank you.
Thanks very much, Beth. Look, I think that this is, to answer your question directly about what I think is going on in Moscow and the calculations that are being made there, I honestly don't think a decision has yet been taken. But that doesn't mean that it is impossible that something absolutely disastrous could happen very soon indeed. And our intelligence, I'm afraid to say, remains grim, and we're seeing the massing of huge numbers of tactical battalion groups, tactical groups on the borders of Ukraine, 70 or more. This is probably the most dangerous moment, I would say, in the course of the next few days, in what is the biggest security crisis that Europe has faced for decades. And we've got to get it right. And I think that the combination of sanctions and military resolve plus diplomacy are what is in order. And everybody understands you ask about whether we're at one across the West on sanctions. I think increasingly, actually, we are at one. And I think that I congratulate Olaf Scholz of Germany on the way he's been able to move towards a tougher position on Nord Stream 2, difficult though obviously that is for Germany and for the German economy. I think that the UK has been able to help to bring people together with an automatic package of sanctions that would hit Russian commercial and strategic commercial interests. The tougher those sanctions are, the more automatic they are, the more chance we have of deterring what I think would be an irrational response. But what we're also doing is ensuring that we have we engage the Russians' attention, we occupy their bandwidth, and we get ready all over the eastern frontier of NATO. And that's why Jens was kind enough to mention all the things that we're doing. We're supporting Operation Cold Response up in the north, in the Norway area, with the HMS Prince of Wales, 16 Air Assault Brigade. In Estonia, we're doubling the presence at Tapa, the enhanced forward presence at Tapa. In Poland, we're adding, where I'll be going shortly, we're adding another 350 troops from 4-5 Commando. We're doing air policing in Romania, increasing the number of Typhoons that we're deploying out of Cyprus by a squadron of Typhoons, and we're sending ships to the Eastern Mediterranean and the Black Sea, an OPV and a Type 45. And that's, as I think, as Jens referred to, we're also putting on standby 1,000 troops in preparation for a humanitarian crisis that may take place on NATO's eastern frontiers. So we're getting ready we're making military preparations, we're getting ready economic sanctions, but we're also willing to talk. And I think Jens summed it up very well in what he said. There are some things that are non-negotiable. That's the idea of a Europe whole and free. That's the idea that NATO must have an open door policy, that the people of Ukraine must be able to aspire to NATO membership. And then, of course, there are things that it would be sensible to talk about, and things that NATO and the UK, the US, everybody is willing certainly to discuss. And they include transparency about NATO exercises, about NATO force posture, about the stationing of missiles, making progress on, certainly, as Jens said, on the INF area where Russia is in breach, and making progress on intermediate nuclear missiles. All those are subjects for discussion, and far, far better to begin a discussion now than to have a catastrophe. So that's what we're pushing for, and there's a lot of effort going in on all those fronts. But Beth, whether it's going to pay off now, whether we're going to be successful, I simply can't say.
Then on the unity of the alliance, I think what we have seen over the last weeks and months is actually a very united NATO, where we stand together both when it comes to our diplomatic efforts, but also when it comes to the necessary military adaptation we have implemented. On the diplomatic efforts, all allies agree that we need to sit down with Russia to engage in good faith in talks to try to find a political, peaceful solution to the conflict. And that's the reason why we have invited Russia for meetings in the format of the NATO-Russia Council, why I welcome that NATO allies, as the United Kingdom, but also other allies, engage directly with Russia. Secretary Liz Truss is in Moscow today, and other allies have reached out because we need a broad approach when it comes to our diplomatic efforts with Russia. But this is based on a unified message, which all NATO allies has agreed. We agreed a comprehensive document which we sent over to Russia as our common response, as our united response to the legally binding treaties that Russia proposed for us some weeks ago. And this is the agreed basis. This is the agreed message, exactly as Boris said. We list areas where we're ready to sit and discuss on arms control, missiles, nuclear, many other issues. The point is that it has to be verifiable and balanced. And then we list also some areas where we cannot make compromises, especially the right for every nation to choose its own path, and the right, of course, for NATO to defend and protect all allies. This idea that we should introduce some kind of second-class allies, those allies that have joined NATO after 1997, is absolutely not acceptable for us. But verifiable, balanced arms control, that's something we absolutely are in favor of and ready to engage in with Russia. Let me just briefly also add that the military adaptation sends a clear signal that Russia has a choice. They can either choose a diplomatic solution, and we are ready to sit down, but if they choose confrontation, they will pay a high price. There will be economic sanctions. There will be increased NATO military presence in the eastern part of the alliance. UK is really an important part of that. Already announced new deployments on top of what UK has already deployed in the eastern part of the alliance. And of course the Ukrainian army, defense force, is much stronger now than they were in 2014, because they are better equipped, better trained, better command, and I welcome that United Kingdom and other allies provide support to the Ukrainian defense forces so they can defend themselves. This is a right for every nation to defend themselves, for self-defense, and it's good that NATO allies like the United Kingdom help Ukraine to uphold that right.
We'll go to Laura Kunsberg from BBC.